Marc Marquez crashed 3 times in 2 days in Buriram, sick with a stomach virus, going down at turn 1 on his second lap, again at turn 5, then a third time during his race simulation, and still ended the test third fastest overall and top Ducati. For the rest of the grid, that is not reassuring. That is a horror story. Because if this is Marquez off colour and struggling, barely able to concentrate, dragging himself around a circuit on an empty stomach, what happens when he feels good? If you enjoy real MotoGP analysis, the technology, the politics, the stories behind the headlines, subscribe to GP Insider. Let's walk through everything that came out of Thailand. Because Buriram didn't just give us lap times, it gave us the clearest picture of where this season is heading. And some of what it showed was deeply uncomfortable. Marquez himself was honest about day 1. The day was very difficult because from the morning I had a stomachache, so I didn't have the energy to concentrate. That is Marquez being vulnerable, and it still produced the fastest Ducati time on day 1. Then day 2 arrived, and his race simulation started brilliantly, lapping in the low 1:30 seconds, where he needed to be, before the third crash brought it to an early end. He went to the medical centre, gave a thumbs up walking out, and when asked whether any of it concerned him heading into the season opener at this circuit next weekend, he gave the kind of answer only he can give. All 3 crashes I had this weekend were a lack of concentration. When I'm fully concentrated, I can control it. I'm 100% convinced and clear on what I need now and how we will start. 3 crashes. A stomach virus, a shortened race simulation. Fully confident, the man operates on a different frequency to everyone else. And watching all that from the back of the timesheets was Toprak Razgatlioglu. 21st, more than 2 seconds off the pace. Last among all race riders. And what makes this storyline fascinating is what Toprak said when asked about watching Marquez on track. I saw Marc many times and noticed some things. He saw a rider who crashes, gets up, and immediately goes faster, using the fall itself as data, as a calibration tool, as proof that he found the limit. And Toprak, still learning to trust a front tyre that keeps deceiving him, admitted something quietly significant. If I get stronger, racing and fighting with him one day would be incredible, not this season. One day. That is a man who has assessed the situation with clarity and refused to pretend otherwise. GP Insider follows stories like this in depth, how riders adapt, how bikes evolve. Subscribe if that's your kind of MotoGP content. He even offered a darkly funny solution. Maybe I need to crash more because the gap between Toprak and the front isn't talent. Everyone in that paddock knows it's talent. The gap is feel. That impossible relationship between rider and machine that only comes from thousands of laps, hundreds of crashes, and a tyre that has slowly stopped surprising you. On the brakes it's okay, but when I'm leaning, I don't know the limit, he said. I'm always getting sad. I'm always thinking corner by corner, trying to do my best, but lap time is not coming. 3 world titles, and he's getting sad watching his name at the bottom. That is how brutally honest this sport is. Now, while Marquez was crashing and Toprak was struggling, the political temperature around the Ducati garage was rising sharply. Because Buriram delivered new and specific noise around Francesco Bagnaia's future. And for the first time, it felt like a real destination rather than paddock gossip. Reports directly linked Bagnaia to a 2027 move to Aprilia Racing, potentially forming an all-Italian lineup alongside Marco Bezzecchi. Bagnaia himself said his future would be resolved in the coming days, which suggests the decision is made and the announcement is simply waiting on contractual paperwork. And the timing could not have been more pointed, because Bezzecchi spent the Buriram test breaking the all-time lap record at Chang International Circuit, a 1:28.813. Faster than Bagnaia's own qualifying record from 2024. Aprilia, the team Bagnaia may be heading to, just put down the fastest lap this track has ever seen. The message from the RSGP camp was loud. "We are ready. Come join us." Then there is Honda. And a specific thing Luca Marini said that deserves more attention. Marini has been vocal about something that cuts to the heart of what went wrong at HRC during the Marquez years. The RC213V was developed so specifically around Marquez's extreme, over-the-limit riding style. The crashes, the saves, the impossible corner entries no other human could replicate, that when he left, no one else could ride it. The machine became unrideable for normal people because it had been built for someone who isn't one. Marquez caused Honda to suffer because their reliance on him was too heavy, Marini said. It is a statement that carries a specific echo because right now, history appears to be repeating itself in red. Ducati are building their future around Marquez again, reorganizing their lineup, signing Acosta, moving on from Bagnaia. And nobody is loudly asking the question Marini's words are pointing at. What happens to Ducati the day Marquez decides to leave? And speaking of Acosta, his Buriram test was the quietest strong performance of the pre-season. No drama, no headline moments, just consistent, clean, serious pace. A 1 minute 30.550 average over 11 consecutive laps in his race simulation, closely matching what the Ducati factory riders were running on similar fuel loads. He didn't try to outqualify anyone, he just worked. And when asked about Ducati's pace, he didn't dress it up. Ducati looks more dominant. A 21-year-old on a KTM he's desperate to escape, calmly acknowledging the benchmark like he's already, planning how to beat it next year. That mentality, calm, clear-eyed, strategic, is what Ducati saw and decided to pay for. The season starts this weekend, at this circuit, 6 days from now, and the grid that lines up in Thailand carries more unresolved storylines than any pre-season in recent memory. A champion who crashes 3 times and still looks untouchable. A world SBK legend searching for a front tyre he can trust. A 2-time world champion with his bags possibly packed. A 21-year-old on the wrong bike who knows where he wants to be next year. And a cautionary tale written by Honda that nobody at Ducati appears to be reading. We'll follow this season, race by race. Subscribe if you want to stay with the full story. So I want to know what you think. After everything we saw in Buriram, is anyone actually capable of stopping Marc Marquez in 2026? Drop it in the comments. And if you want the full breakdown of the Bagnaia situation and how Ducati's rider market, dominoes are falling, that video is up next.